I have a few points on this. Number one, police officers who arrested criminals, their names are in the paper. Then you have, they know the people who have guns if they want to steal them, people who don't have guns where they can go rape, rob, and steal. This is really dangerous.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And it's a wake-up call for New York State. This is to make these public records has got to be changed. Many states already do that. You get a gun permit. That is not a public record for exactly the reason you say. Criminals know whose house they can home invade when people are there. This is why home invasions are 10 times higher in Britain than they are in this country, because there's no private gun ownership. And as a consequence, you're much better off as a burglar burglarizing a home when the people are there. Their wallets are out, their keys are out. You can find out where the safe is. And as you say, they also know, people who live in Westchester County who work in Manhattan, for example, when they're not there, when they're commuting to New York, they can't bring their guns. That's when you break in and steal the gun. And that's a curious thing. I mean, why, as that man just said, why aren't we getting the names of recently paroled criminals? People with gun permits, by definition, do not have criminal records. Why can't we get the criminal records? No, we can't get that. Why can't we get a record of women who have had abortions? They get money from Planned Parenthood. They get money from Medicare, from Medicaid. Much of this is their tax subsidies. I think, you know, mothers might want to know what other women on their street might be willing to murder a child. How about the list of rent-controlled apartments in New York? And by the way, if we're producing lists even of gun permit owners, I want them for Manhattan. I want to know how many rich liberals with their bodyguards have gun permits. The News Journal, or Journal News, by the way, as I'm sure your viewers know, they hired a couple of armed guards because they got, some mean emails. Armed guards. Can we get the armed guards' names and addresses?
Well, just like a lot of the Hollywood stars that have been speaking out, they get to hire armed guards.
Yeah.
Our politicians are protected
No,
by
they want
armed
gun
guards.
control. That means, you know, we can't have, you know, all these benefits for the rich. We have a very unequal society. If there is gun control, I want no one who makes $200,000 or more being allowed to hire a bodyguard. You be as defenseless as the rest of us.
You said to me, as we were coming on the air, they are coming for our guns. What did you mean by that?
Well, they're hysterical women. They refuse to go after criminals. They will not release the names of people who've been convicted of crimes. They will not do anything about manifestly crazy people. No, no, no. We have to let Billy Boggs walk the street of Manhattan, defecate in the street. You have the ACLU defending crazy people. All of these shoot-ups, this precious protection for obviously mentally disturbed individuals. There is certainly no effort to reduce single motherhood, something that is also a contributing factor in many of these cases. I mean, New York City, you can't take a subway without somebody being pushed onto the tracks by mentally disturbed individuals, and liberals won't let us go after the criminals. No, they specifically go and try to harm people who by definition do not have criminal records so that their guns can be stolen by criminals.
You were critical of Wayne LaPierre, of the NRA, and this whole issue after the Newtown shooting that came up and everybody frantically doing this, running out there and blaming the gun. And this happens after every shooting. Columbine happened in the middle of the assault weapons ban. My question to you is, what is the best way to counter this? And do you really think, when Andrew Cuomo talks about confiscation and Dianne Feinstein wants registration and fingerprinting, that is going to be the law of the land? Do you worry that that's happening?
Well, we do have a Second Amendment, something that liberals have manifestly forgotten about. I mean, I think we ought to shut down the New York Times, but I am aware we have a First Amendment. They seem completely unaware that we have a Second Amendment. The best way to counter this is to say that every public multiple victim shooting since 1950, with the exception of one, has been in a gun-free zone. The only exception is Gabrielle Giffords. When James Holmes was looking for a theater in Aurora, Colorado, there were 7 movie theaters within 20 minutes of him, many much closer than the one he went to, many with wider screens and more easy access. The one he chose was the single theater that had a no guns policy posted. But you want to cut down on public shootings? I mean, there's been one thorough examination of public multiple victim shootings in this country in all 50 states from 1977 to 1999. It was updated to 99 by William Landis at University of Chicago, John Lott then at Yale University. They looked at death penalty, they looked at extra penalties for committing a crime with a gun. The one public policy that had an effect that reduced the incidence of these shootings and the number of casualties was concealed carry permits. That was the one policy. If you care about children dying, if you care about innocent victims, you should be in favor of concealed carry. And you don't have to carry as long as you don't have these idiots at Journal News publishing who isn't
We have
carrying.
armed guards protecting our money, armed guards protecting Hollywood stars and politicians.
Armed guards protecting the Journal News.
But when you say we should put armed guards in school, people melt and bubble and fizz like Alka-Seltzer in water as if this idea is insane.
Well, I don't think the idea is insane, but I don't think it's as good as concealed carry because, I mean, it's not as insane as so many other things being suggested, but what if the crazy person is the guard? Also, if you want to shoot up a school and nobody else has a gun but the guard, it's very easy to know who you take out first. You are so much safer when the criminal, especially in a public scenario. I mean, if you're going after one victim, say there's a 50-50 chance the person is armed. If you're doing it in a public place with 20 people and each one of them, there's a 50% chance that each one of them is armed. That's why, I mean, that shopping mall out in right before Christmas where there was the shooting. What was it, in Seattle?
Yeah.
Portland. I was on your show that night, and we were all sitting in the green room saying, this is amazing. There are only 2 dead in a public at Christmas time. Well, that's because it was a gun-free shopping mall, but there was a man with a concealed carry. He apparently didn't see the sign, and he pointed his gun at the shooter, and the shooter went around the corner and killed himself.
Yeah. And